eventually. I pray that I'm giving you all that matters. So one day you'll say to me, I love my life. I am powerful. I am beautiful.
Hello everyone, this is Deborah Mcphilemy, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm an emotional intelligence specialist. I help parents, educators and children to understand and express their emotions. And keep listening to Dr.Ayesha Mughees on Galaxy Radio Namibia.
I am not my mistakes, and God knows I've made a few. I started to question the angels, and the answer they gave was you. I cannot promise there won't be sadness. I wish I could take it from you, but you'll find the courage to face the madness and sing it because it's true. I love my life. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am free. I love my life. I am wonderful. I am magical. I am me. I love my life.
Welcome to Galaxy Radio, everyone, and I'm your radio presenter and health expert with my show, A Moment with Dr.Ayesha Mughees on Galaxy Radio Namibia. Today is a very important interview, I must say, since we have someone who would help you understand how to express your emotions, deal with all sorts of situations, including bullying at school, workplaces, and otherwise. During this entire week, she helps educators, parents, and children understand and express their emotions. So this is basically something which is not very commonly studied, or I must say practiced nowadays, and in fact these values have now become redundant. So we have an emotional intelligence specialist with us today who is from Cape Town, South Africa. She has also done a course from the US related to health. We will ask her what is that all about as well. So a very warm welcome to Deborah Mcphilemy on our show. Deborah, a very warm welcome to you. Deborah, before we discuss this common global neurosis, which is not abnormal, I must say, but very natural, we'd like you to first introduce yourself to our listeners, which wouldn't be incongruent, I must say. So, Deborah, where are you originally from? Your country? Where did you grow up? Your education, since you've also done a course in the US, what is that all about? Since we'll be asking you questions related to that as well. If you'd like to highlight how you embarked on this journey of helping individuals through these two fields of yours. In this interview, we'd also like to know of your hobbies, your passions, what do you do in your spare time, and your inspiration. Aside that, since we'll already be having our Galaxy Facts segment, which would be a full-fledged segment related to what is emotional intelligence and everything important related to it, as well as your other field. So we'd also like you to, in the end, express your enthusiasm via your song choice, which we would play right after this interview. Yes, Deborah.
I started to question the angels, and the answer they gave was you. I cannot promise there won't be sadness. I wish I could take it from you, but you'll find the courage to face the madness and sing it because it's true. I love my life. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am free. I love my life. I am wonderful.
show. Yes, as you said, my name is Deborah Mcphilemy, and I am in Cape Town at the moment, but I live half the time in South Africa and half the time in the UK. My husband is British. I grew up in South Africa. I suppose the longest place that I stayed in was in Port Elizabeth and then Cape Town after that, because my dad's job required that he be moved around the country quite a lot. But yes, I grew up here, and I went to the UK in 2010 on holiday to go and visit my daughter, who was there, who'd settled there after her gap year, and met my husband, and then ended up staying there. So my journey into emotional intelligence actually started with nutrition. What had happened was I had chronic fatigue syndrome, and I'd had it for 7 years. I'd seen quite a few doctors who told me they couldn't help me. It was a condition they didn't understand a lot about. They treated me with some medication and vitamin supplements, but it didn't actually do anything. Made me feel better for a little while, and then I would just feel terrible again. And I discovered this book that somebody had lent my mom about how this man had healed his body of colon cancer or stomach cancer by changing his diet. And it was a book that somebody had sent over from the USA. And, I was so inspired by his story that I said to myself, well, if he could heal his stomach cancer, I can heal my chronic fatigue syndrome, which I did. I followed everything that he did to the letter. And 2 weeks later, I felt like I had the most energy I'd ever had in my entire life. It was absolutely amazing. And it just made me feel so good that I really wanted to help other people. And I thought, why on earth why doesn't more people know about how nutrition actually affects your immune system and your body? So I sold my car to pay for my trip, and I traveled to America, and I went and learned from the author himself, and I became a health coach. But just before that, I had qualified as a counselor. So I was working as a relationship counselor, a family counselor, working with a lot of crisis in families. So, when I did the health coach course, it was just sort of something else that I could do. And came back to South Africa, worked in that sector for a while, but 5 years later I became ill again, and I was then diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I was sent up to a fibromyalgia specialist, and he said to me, the biggest reason that people have fibromyalgia is because of unresolved emotional issues, which was something really new to hear. I mean, this was in 2003, because not a lot was spoken about the psyche or how the mind and the body works together, or how the mind affects your body. So anyway, he didn't tell me how to fix my fibromyalgia or to heal it. He just said to me that, that obviously I've got unresolved emotional issues. And I left there, and it wasn't long afterwards that my boss actually came back from America, and he brought me a book about emotional intelligence. And he said to me, please find me a trainer who can teach emotional intelligence. And, I read the book, and it was quite difficult to read, but it was just eye-opening, and I realized that emotional intelligence was the solution and the answer to what I was looking for, because it actually teaches you how to resolve your unresolved emotional issues. And at the same time, I'd read an article that David Patient had written. He was the guy that lived the longest with the HIV virus that had not turned into AIDS. And I wrote to him at the time as well, and he said the same thing to me that the doctor had said to me. He said to me, the body never lies, your symptoms tell me, because I described my symptoms that I had, and he said, your symptoms tell me that you have unresolved emotional issues. So obviously then, discovering emotional intelligence, I then learned how to resolve my emotional issues, and I found a book. Once again, I love books. I found a book by two doctors who had written about it. It was a workbook about emotional intelligence in South Africa. And I wrote to them and I said to them, please, can they teach me everything they know? Because I just couldn't find a trainer. There was just no trainers available at all that taught emotional intelligence in this country. And they said to me, no, they don't teach people. I just need to read the book. And I persisted, and I kept asking them, and I kept emailing them, and eventually they said, okay, Deborah, come up to us and we will teach you everything you know. And so I became the very first emotional intelligence trainer in South Africa. So that's kind of how my journey started, and I became incredibly passionate about emotional intelligence, because not only did I learn about EQ, which is just another, an acronym for emotional intelligence, but I then started studying about the mind. David Patient, the gentleman who I'd spoken to about my condition, and the guy who had HIV, he sent me his book, and it was all about PNI, psychoneuroimmunology, and I obviously followed that as well. So I did the emotional intelligence, I did psychoneuroimmunology, and then I started studying mind power, because they're so interlinked. And it's almost like the one can't really do without the other one, because if you're going to resolve your past or resolve your traumas that had happened, you needed to know all about that. So yes, that's how my journey started. You wanted to know more about my passions and my hobbies. My biggest passion is my family. I spend a lot of time with my family. I've got 4 children. I've got 4 grandchildren. My husband and I love to travel, and if we can travel with our family, even better. And then the other thing that I'm absolutely crazy about is books. I love, 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 love books. I love reading, studying, and I also love watching movies, and sometimes a bit of music on the side. But that's all about my passions and hobbies. So just following on from that, you asked me about what my inspiration is. What inspires me is empowerment. And, I love reading stories about people who have changed their lives, who have done something different, who have found solutions, specifically when it comes to health and mind and body. I'm obviously really, really interested in that. So I'm very inspired by people who have also changed their lives by changing the way they think, by changing their mindset, by reprogramming their brains, neuroplasticity. All of those subjects inspire me, and people like that inspire me. And that's why I just keep learning and studying. And what inspires me even more is when I teach and I train and I write my books, and I see how people's lives are changed just by passing on the knowledge that I have learned over the years. And I learn a lot from my clients. Every one of them is unique. Every story is unique, and they just continue to teach me. My children continue to teach me, and now my grandchildren do. And they really inspire me, because they're just a complete different generation. And it's really for them that I keep going, because I don't want my children or my grandchildren to have the experience I had as a child, being bullied, and then ending up in a situation of being bullied as an adult and domestic violence. So my children and my grandchildren are my biggest inspiration. So yeah.
Tell your soul to me, I will never let go completely. One day our hands will be strong enough to hold me. I might not be there for all your battles, but you will them eventually. I pray that I'm giving you all that matters, so one day you'll say to me, I love my life. I am powerful, I am beautiful, I am free. I love my life. I am wonderful, I am magical, I am me. I love my life. I am not my mistakes, and God knows I've made a few. I started to question the angels, and the answer they gave was you. I cannot promise there won't be sadness. I wish I could take it from you, but you'll find the courage to face the madness and sing it because it's true. I love my And finally, I'm where I want